Hello, my name's Stephen, and this is Faith Ministries. Today we're having a look at a Bible which many of you may already be familiar with, but it's called the Contemporary English Version, the CEV, Contemporary English Version. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was barren, with no form of life. It was under a roaring ocean, covered with darkness, but the Spirit of God was moving over the water. God said, "I command light to shine," and light started shining. God looked at the light and saw that it was good. He separated light from darkness and named the light day and darkness night. Evening came, then morning, and that was the first day. What was the origin and the purpose of the CEV? It was brought out by the American Bible Society, and it was a translation that was published back in 1995. Its whole aim was to have a text that was easily read by primary school children, second language readers, and those who prefer the use of more contemporary form, such as the word contemporary English version, contemporary as of our times, how people speak today in America or in Australia or in England or wherever they speak English. One thing that the American Bible Society state is that the CEV, the Contemporary English Version, is not a paraphrase. It's an accurate and a faithful translation of the original manuscripts. It began as a result of studies conducted by a biblical scholar, Dr. Barclay M. Newman, in 1984 into speech patterns that were used in books, magazines, newspapers, and in television. His whole idea was, how can we condense that down? How can we get the same style that they're using in today's vernacular and in today's publications into a Bible itself? And so the CEV New Testament was released in 1991, and which was the 175th anniversary of the American Bible Society. So the Old Testament and the New Testament then was finally released in 1995. They brought out the entire Bible with the Apocrypha, which was published in 1999. There were three principles that the American Bible Society has in the publication of the Contemporary English Version. And they were that, one, it must be understood by people without stumbling in their speech as they were reading it. Secondly, it must be understood by those with little or no comprehension of Bible language. And thirdly, it must be understood by all, whether you're a professor at the university or whether you are somebody who drives a truck or a mother at home or a child who's only in third grade at school. It must be understood by all. It's interesting, though, that the CEV, like a lot of the new modern Bibles, they use a gender-neutral language for humanity, though not for God. God is always He. It is Him. He's our Father. So what was the translation style that they used to make the Contemporary English Version? Well, as you can tell shortly, they used the thought for thought rather than a strict word for word. Now, if we have a look at this spectrum that we've used before, so if having a look at this spectrum, we can see that on the left-hand side here, we have the word for word. And then in the center, we have, which has the Bible, such as the New American Standard Bible, the Modern English Version, and the Amplified Bible, the King James, etc., where they take the Greek and the Hebrew and they try to make it as accurate as possible to the English words to produce those Bibles. And then here in the center, we have what they call the thought for thought, which includes Bibles such as the New American Bible, the NIV, which is a very popular one, New International Version, the New English Translation, etc. And then over here on the right-hand side, we have the paraphrase, such as the Message Bible. So where is the CEV? Well, the CEV lies here, they say, just here, just on the edge of the thought for thought and also on the paraphrase. So it is still in the thought for thought area, where they're taking the Greek and the Hebrew and getting the, as it were, the meaning and the gist behind the words, putting it into modern day vernacular. But it is not a true paraphrase like the Living Bibles and the Message. So how does then the Contemporary English Version actually read? Well, the obvious thing is that it turns it into everyday words and phrases. For example, in Exodus chapter 20, verse 14, where there is a prohibition against committing adultery, thou shalt not commit adultery, it is rather rendered more positively in terms of being faithful in marriage. Also interesting to see that with the New International Version, which is a thought for thought Bible as well, but it is more tending towards the word for word. Psalm 127, verse 1, it says, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain. But the CEV comes up with a much shorter one. It says that without the help of the Lord, it is useless to build a home or to guard a city. And so they've taken quite a few words and brought it back to one simple sentence. Or even verses 4 and 5 in the New International Version. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame when they contend with their opponents in court. Whereas the Contemporary English Version say, having a lot of children to take care of you in your old age is like a warrior with a lot of arrows. The more you have, the better off you will be, because they will protect you when your enemies attack with arguments. And one other interesting thing to look at is that in John chapter 18, verse 14, the CEV translate the Greek words hoi oidoi, which is literally the Jews, as Jewish leaders. A lot of Bibles, they just call them the Jews did this and the Jews did that. Whereas the CEV wants to differentiate between the Jewish people and the Jewish leaders. And so they call them the Jewish leaders, who are the ones who came to Jesus and put him into an argument as such. So let's just have a look at the website that they provided for us. Here we are on the cev.bible website, Contemporary English Version, easy to understand Bible using everyday words and phrases. And we run down here and we see a picture of the Bible. The distinctives, they say, is that the CEV presents a fresh translation of the Bible using everyday words and phrases so the Bible can be understandable by everyone. Popularity. It's interesting. The CEV is the 10th most popular Bible version that people read. That's according to the State of the Bible in 2017, which is a few years ago. And the translation work, as we just spoke then, was the drafting, reviewing, editing, revising, and refining of the CEV text of the Bible. It extended over 10 years, and it was done by a lot of people with a lot of feedback. And they provide you with a free reading plan. You can shop for various CEV Bibles and resources, etc. And then it just goes into looking at about, which is what we've already looked at, about the CEV, which basically covers what we've already discussed. So over here in Genesis chapter 1, this is looking at using the Software YouVersion. Genesis chapter 1, let's just hear what the CEV reads like. The story of creation. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was barren, with no form of life. It was under a roaring ocean, covered with darkness. But the Spirit of God was moving over the water. God said, I command light to shine. And light started shining. God looked at the light and saw that it was good. He separated light from darkness and named the light day and darkness night. Evening came, then morning, and that was the first day. So it's very much a thought for thought, but also very much a paraphrase. It reads really easily with short sentences and in words which we can understand. Over here in this particular website called Bible Search, where you can also read the CEV, I'll just give you a different example of it. If we have a look at John in chapter 1, it says that in the beginning was the one who is called the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was truly God. From the very beginning, the Word was with God. And with this Word, God created all things. Nothing was made without the Word. Everything that was created received its life from him, and his life gave light to everyone. And the light keeps shining in the dark, and the darkness has never put it out. And so again, a very simple way to read the Scriptures. Now, you may be familiar with passages which are a bit strange to read, like Matthew chapter 1, which talks about the genealogy of Jesus. Especially in the King James, it talks so-and-so beget so-and-so, beget so-and-so, beget so-and-so. So how does the Contemporary English Version handle Matthew chapter 1, verse 1? Let's have a look. And so here we are back on the YouVersion, ancestors of Jesus. Chapter 1, verse 1. Jesus Christ came from the family of King David and also from the family of Abraham. This is the list of his ancestors. From Abraham to King David, his ancestors were Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah and his brothers. Judah's sons were Perez and Zerah, and their mother was Tamar, Hezron, Ram, Amminadab, Ashdod, etc., etc. From David to the time of exile in Babylon, the ancestors of Jesus were David and Solomon. His mother had been Uriah's wife. And we read on down through all the various people. There were 14 generations from Abraham to David, 14 from David to the exile in Babylonia, and 14 more to the birth of the Messiah. So you can see they simplified it a great deal. They got rid of all the begats or the son of this or had this son or whatever, and it just all flows together quite nicely. So that's just a quick look at the Contemporary English Version, the CEV, which is a thoughtful thought Bible. How many of you have that Bible in your library? How many of you use it quite regularly? I know it's quite popular with some people because of the ease, especially with the children, the ease of being able to read it. Tell me your thoughts of whether you like the CEV or not in the comments below. So I hope you liked that video. If you did, please like and subscribe so more people may see it. Until next time, God bless.